So I'm going to do a little more filming. Lexi going the other way. I thought this was interesting. After we had our long trot, going this way, we did a lot more walking than trotting. Again, we did about 15 minutes. We're down to the last 5. And I'm really just letting her walk. But what I wanted to point out on this video is what she's doing. That's called rooting, where she's a little more bent to the outside this direction because her habit is to overload that left front. So when she tracks left, she kind of falls to the inside, and in order to get the pelvis level and pull the hindquarters in where they need to be, sometimes her neck is a little bit put to the outside like that. And then what I really wanted to address was this rooting, because it happens under saddle and it happens on the long reins, and it's actually a really positive change. It's a little dramatic. It kind of comes in fits and starts, but it often gets labeled as a horse being really rude. And so what we tend to do is restrict them with the reins when they do that. And what's really happening, especially on this direction where she's muscularly quite a bit tighter because she's been really overloading that left front for a long time, to the point that it's a much flatter foot compared to the right front, although that's slowly changing. But there's a lot of chronic muscle tension tied into that weight bearing on the left front. And so when she starts to release, or any horse, when they start to release chronic tension, it can sort of go like a wave from the hindquarters or through the back or around the shoulders or throughout the thoracic sling. And when they poke their nose out like that, and we call it rude or rooting, whatever name we have, people don't like it. And but it's really the horse finding suppleness again. That's what's important about it. So you can see she's either bent a little to the outside, or she's over curling her neck, trying to hold muscularly the way she's used to. And as soon as that lets go, which tells me the skeleton is getting more stable, right? She sort of pushes on the bit, and she really throws her nose out there like that, right on cue. And she does it every couple of strides, especially after we've worked and on the left direction, where she's a lot tighter through her front end, her neck and shoulder and upper back. That's where she does it the most. And I just have to sort of let the reins slide. I'm not giving on the inside rein. I'm keeping it the same length. But when she roots, I just sort of let her pull my arms forward, so I'm not restricting, I'm not punishing her for trying to do that with her neck. It's a very normal muscular change, right? And to me, it's a very good sign in rehab when they go from over curling the neck to suddenly rooting and pushing on the bit. It's a sign of the muscles through the neck and really the entire thoracic sling, back and hindquarter. That muscle tone is changing, and she's starting to release a holding pattern of chronic tension. And so she just sort of throws her head out there, throws her neck out there, because she wants that release of tension. And what will happen over time is the more stable she gets through her back and hindquarter, she'll no longer need to do that. Right now, it's kind of a physical necessity. And a lot of times we interrupt it or we restrict it, thinking the horse is being naughty. And it's not naughty at all. It's just what she needs to do for her own body to feel better. In the same way we might want to get up and stretch if we've been tight, right? And just because it's sort of new for her, it comes out hard and fast, which is why people are surprised by it. It can kind of jerk us by the shoulders and give us whiplash from the saddle until we learn to keep our fingers very soft and our arms soft. And then she can pull. She's going to hit the end a little bit, but I'm trying to give her as much room to lengthen her neck and not feel restricted as possible. And this will happen under saddle. during rehab all the time, especially horses that have been really curling the neck and holding through the neck and weak through the back and hindquarter. And like I said, the better her back and hindquarters more stable they become, the better she can use them. She'll lengthen without that sort of quick pull, or we could call it pushing on the bit or pulling on the reins. It's the same thing. So I just wanted to show that before I get on her, because it's so often considered a behavioral problem, or it's considered a problem, right? Even if people don't know why the horse is doing that, they don't like it, so it's a problem, and they try to restrict it in order to change the behavior. But it's really a dynamic muscular change that's just being expressed while she's not quite found her balance. She's in the process of change. So whenever they're changing, a lot of stuff is going to come out in fits and starts and sideways and imperfect, and it's not going to go. I think we have this idea that they're just going to go from imbalanced into this gorgeous, perfect, competition-ready level of movement. And that's not very realistic. It's far more realistic to sort of, learn to pedal the bike and then fall over a bunch, and then get back on the bike and pedal and fall over. And that's how you learn a new coordination. So I'm just going to put the reins on her, and I'm just going to show the first part of the ride. We're working on what I showed in the last video, as well as the groundwork. So we've been doing walk-trot transitions on the long reins on big circles, walking on the long reins on little tiny circles, and then under saddle, still playing with walk-halt transitions and a little bit of backup now and again. Very careful with the backup because that's difficult for her. Put both reins on, that would be helpful. And like I said, I'll just jump on her and we'll kind of see what we've got. Obviously, we finished quite a bit of groundwork. She's a little bit sweaty. So now, actually working at the walk under saddle, instead of feeling difficult to her, should kind of feel like the easiest part of the ride. Thank you, sweetie. It's a little close. Oh, and I forgot my boots. Forgot my half chaps, oh well. So that halt with her back dropped and her neck short is like one of her strongest habits. When she gets unstable in forward motion like that, right? She's a little loosey-goosey after all that trotting. So I'm just gonna tighten up my turn. I'm maybe gonna put her on a tight figure 8. And when she tries to stick her neck upside down, which is also dropping her back, disengaging her hindquarters, I tend to go to one rein rather than two, right? So when she stops and shortens her neck, I just use one rein, put a little light bend in the neck if I need to. There goes my crazy kitty. And just try to get her unstuck with a little bit of a turn rather than messing with her mouth or her head or tightening the reins. Yeah, and after all those trot transitions, she actually feels pretty good, but a little unstable. So I feel like she's a little more solid in her hindquarters. I can feel her hind legs easier, but she's a little loosey-goosey at the front end and isn't like, she's just a little distracted, a little bit rushing because she doesn't feel stable. So what I'm working on is ooh, there's a nice shoulder clunk. No charge for the chiropractic. I'm just going to stabilize my seat, right? I'm going to bend her neck as little as possible. If I can make a tight figure 8 with her neck straight, That's going to help her feel more stable. But when she does that, I always go to one rein and begin a turn. And as soon as she lengthens her neck or tries to lengthen her neck, then I put her neck straight again, right? But that sort of upside down moment, that's one of her signature moves. It's been tough to change. It's going to take a lot more strength through her back and hindquarter. But I can at least interrupt the habit and have her search for something a little bit better than that. Good. Now she's starting to relax and feel a little more stable. This is another normal transition. It's like just as the bones, like where the body is meant to be stable is the skull, spine, rib cage, and pelvis, right? So as she starts to get those bones stable, that's what creates the muscle release. That's what allows the muscles to let go of chronic holding. Until the skeleton, especially the midline and the pelvis, until that is stable through the bones, the muscles have to keep tightening, otherwise she would fall over, right? So something in that body has got to provide stability. And if it's not the spine and the pelvic bones, it's got to be the soft tissues. That's how they can do what we ask them to do without falling over, but still be significantly dysfunctional, right? So as I make these tight turns, if she's kind of trying to lengthen her neck, then I want to keep that pole in line with my seat bones, right? I want to kind of play between the reins because she's a little wiggly right now. That was a better halt. Yes, there's our upside down deal. So now I'm going to take one rein and turn whenever she tries to shorten her neck upward. And then as soon as she tries to lengthen her neck, I'm going to try to get that pole lined up with my seat bones during a turn, right? And that the tightness of the turn is just helping her keep her hind legs placed a little deeper underneath her. And the levelness and the straightness of her spine is going to help stabilize that pelvic engagement, right? And again, she can kind of adjust her speed. She's offering to halt, but she's halting upside down. So when she does that, my legs are on very, very lightly, but I'm not really pushing her to go forward. And I'm really using the rein to turn her in order to get her forward again. There's another little shoulder clunk. And those clunks are because the front legs are held in what's called the thoracic sling, which is all soft tissue. So horses don't have a collarbone or a bony attachment that connects the front legs to their rib cage like ours, to their spine. And so all that muscle in there, could see she's still on the forehand at the trot. That's been her deal for a long time. So her whole thoracic sling is very, very tight because it's been doing a job it's not really meant to be doing, stabilizing the body, because the back and hindquarter were not stable, right? So that's how she got by. And as the back and hindquarter start to become stable, the muscles release tension at the very same rate that the bones increase stability. So they get caught in these windows. That's kind of where she is now, where she's just stable enough through the bones that she's very loose through the muscles, right? Or if she wants to lengthen the neck, she wants to adjust where those front legs are. Those are the clunks, right? But it kind of makes her feel unstable. She's not quite stable enough through the bones, but she's losing stability through the muscle. And so that can make them a little wobbly. That's what I'm feeling when I ride her, is things are just a little wobbly, a little shaky. Let's try to get out from under the branches a bit, my dear. And I'm not really doing an accurate figure eight. I'm just sort of doing right turn, left turn, trying to get her to turn with her neck straight to my seat bones, because if we can stabilize the entire spine, that helps a little more. But if she shortens her neck like that, then I'm going to have to bend with one rein and put her on a little bit of a turn in order just to break that habit like that. And she had quite a workout walk and trot on the long reins today, so I'm not using the halt or the backup to help her work back here any harder, because I definitely feel an improvement in her using her hindquarters. I can feel where the hind feet are landing, so that means she's pretty underneath her compared to normal, and she's working on it, right? There's lots of places here where she falls forward, and that would be where I would start to ask for a halt or start to ask for a halt into a backup. That's a little better halt. She didn't go upside down with her neck. There's a deep breath. That's very good. And we'll just do a little bit more. All I'm looking for in this ride, after working on the trot and kind of mixing things up for her, every improvement we make is still going to cause windows of instability to the body, especially when she's transitioning from sort of using her soft tissues for stability into using her skeleton for stability, the way it should be, right? And so all I want to do is ride her long enough and not be too picky or too demanding. I know there's a cat in the bushes. So that she relaxes into it and feels like she's been given some help to feel stable again. Because feeling unstable is really unnerving. People don't like it, horses don't like it. And when they get kind of wiggly in the process of change, it's important to just end with something easy and really focus on stabilizing, especially if you feel there's been an improvement. Just kind of bringing her back and hindquarter and everything back to a place where it's less wiggly and a lot more stable. And so the more she can lengthen the neck and the less she sort of slams on the brakes, that's her way of saying I'm not stable, is she kind of slams on the brakes and offers halt, and then shortens her neck and drops her back at the same time. So for her to just maybe find a little consistency on her figure eight, left and right, with her neck long and not doing that, yeah, I'd like to make at least one figure eight without you doing that. That tells me she feels more stable in the right places, right? So then that muscular release of tension feels good rather than feeling a little scary, right? And if I don't help the spine and the pelvis get a little more stable, then they can pick out a new pattern of compensation, or it can leave them feeling a little anxious or a little defensive. So I find, particularly when they're advancing and I'm getting some good changes, it's really easy to forget to go back to something simple and focus again on stabilizing those changes as we're making them. Yeah, that's starting to feel good. I know, a little wobbly, but yeah, now I'm feeling the saddle getting a lot more stable, and she's a lot more relaxed, and she's not wanting to like stop and tense quite as much. So that's the stability of the skeleton coming back, right? And every time we make a change, especially an improvement, everything's going to like have to rearrange, and those windows of instability are where things can become a new dysfunctional habit, or the horse can become more protective instead of continuing to change, because not feeling stable is a terrible feeling. That's all that she wants, is to feel more muscular relief, but that muscular relief is only really feels good to her if she's stable somewhere else. Yeah, that's getting better. Okay, I think we can wrap it up there. And again, just kind of a short ride because I worked her. We did quite a bit of walk-trot transition today. And I want this to be a cool down, restabilize the improvement that we got, and just keep it easy and enjoyable. Very good. Now I'm gonna see, oh, there's a little something going on next door. She's getting distracted. I know, it's a small dog. So I'm gonna see if I can find a place to really slowly bring her to halt. I might have to keep her nose a little to one side so she doesn't go upside down with the neck. Yeah. So I'd like to get a halt without her shortening the neck. That's pretty good. Then she shortened the neck because the neighbors are busy. But that was pretty good. All right, my dear. Hey, hey.